Philadelphia, 1957. A small cardboard box hidden deep in the woods. Inside, the body of a young boy. No name, no family, identity. Just silence. For decades, this case haunted America. The FBI searched. Police investigated. Yet the truth slipped through every crack in the system. They called him the boy in the box, America's unknown child. Tonight we open the files once again. Welcome to Crime Justice.
Imagine this. It's a chilly February evening in 1957, and a young college student is out in the woods near Philadelphia, chasing after a rabbit that's darted into the underbrush. His flashlight cuts through the gathering dusk, and there, tucked away in the shadows, he spots something that stops him. Colder, large cardboard box, half buried in the leaves. Heart pounding, he edges closer, and what he uncovers next will haunt the city for decades. This is the story of the boy in the box, one of America's most enduring mysteries, a tale of loss, tireless pursuit, and a breakthrough that came far too late. Welcome back to Crime Justice, where we dive deep into the cases that shaped our understanding of unresolved tragedies. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're unpacking this one, step by step, all based on official records from the Philadelphia Police Department, forensic reports, and verified genealogical breakthroughs. Picture Philadelphia in the winter of 1957. The city is buzzing with the everyday rhythm of post-war America families tuning into I Love Lucy on their new TVs, kids playing stickball in the streets of row house neighborhoods, and the faint hum of industry along the Schuylkill River. But in the quiet, working-class enclave of Fox Chase, up in the northeast corner, where the urban sprawl gives way to patches of wild woods, something unspeakable has unfolded. It's late February, the ground still dusted with the last traces of winter snow, and the air carries that crisp bite that makes you pull your coat tighter. These woods off Susquehanna Road aren't some remote wilderness. They're a familiar spot for locals, hikers, rabbit hunters, and teenagers looking for a shortcut home from school. Yet on this day, they hold a secret that's about to shatter the sense of safety in this tight-knit community. At the heart of this heartbreak was a little boy, no more than 4 years old, standing just 3 feet 6 inches tall, with a slight build that spoke of hardships no child should endure. He had soft, brown hair, cut short in a way that looked hurried and uneven, and his small hands bore neatly trimmed nails, as if someone had taken a moment of care amid the chaos. There were scars on his body, faint surgical marks on his ankle and groin, and an L-shaped one under his chin that hinted at a life marked by medical interventions or rough handling long before that fateful day. We know now, after decades of silence, that his name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born on January 13, 1953, in the city of brotherly love itself. Joseph came from a family of 8 siblings, the youngest of 5 boys and 3 girls, raised in the modest surroundings of a typical Philadelphia household. His parents, Thomas J. Zerley, a cab driver and Navy veteran, and Catherine M. Zerley, were both in their early 30s at the time, navigating the challenges of providing for a growing family in an era when resources were stretched thin. Little is documented about Joseph's earliest days. Official records show his birth certificate filed properly, but whispers from later investigations suggest he may have been placed in informal care arrangements common back then, away from his parents' direct oversight. Whatever his daily world looked like, perhaps playground games in the alleyways or quiet evenings with storybooks, it was cut brutally short, leaving behind a child whose face would become etched in the public's memory, not through joyful snapshots, but through a haunting reconstruction. The incident itself unfolded on February 25, 1957, in a sequence of quiet discoveries that built to a city's collective gasp. It started a few days earlier, when a local man out setting rabbit traps in those same woods stumbled upon the box. Tucked against a tree, it was a plain cardboard carton from J.C.Penney, the kind used for shipping bassinets measuring about 4 feet long, weathered by the elements but intact enough to conceal its grim contents. The trapper peeked inside but froze at the sight, his mind racing with fear of getting in trouble for poaching on the land. He backed away without a word, telling no one, and the box sat undisturbed for another day or two. Then came the college student, John, a LaSalle University freshman, known in the neighborhood for his curiosity about wildlife. He'd heard about the traps and, flashlight in hand, pushed through the brambles after spotting a rabbit vanish into the thicket. There it was, again, that unassuming box, now catching the beam of his light. Kneeling down, he lifted the flap, and the beam fell on a small, pale form. The boy, completely bare, curled up fetal style inside, wrapped loosely in a threadbare plaid blanket stained with dirt and what would later be identified as traces of his own fluids. Joseph's body was cool to the touch, rigor long past, suggesting he'd been placed there sometime in the preceding 24 to 48 hours. The student recoiled, his stomach churning, and hurried home without touching anything else. It wasn't until the next morning, February 26th, after chatting with a friend about a missing girl named Mary Jane Barker from the area, that he mustered the courage to call the police. Officers arrived swiftly, cordoning off the site as neighbors gathered at the tree line, murmuring in disbelief. The medical examiner's team carefully lifted the box onto a stretcher, noting how the boy's head rested at an odd angle, his limbs stiff from the cold. Inside the blanket's folds, they found clumps of his own hair, as if clipped in haste right before or even after he stopped breathing. Nearby, in the underbrush, searchers uncovered a few overlooked items: a blue corduroy cap, sized for an adult man, a child's blue scarf walked on by countless feet, and a white handkerchief monogrammed with a P in one corner, clues that seemed tantalizing but would lead nowhere concrete. As the ambulance pulled away, the weight of it all settled over Fox Chase like a fog. A child, discarded like yesterday's trash, his final moments a puzzle wrapped in flannel and cardboard. From that moment, the Philadelphia Police Department's homicide unit launched what would become one of the most exhaustive probes in the city's history. A dogged chase spanning generations of detectives and volunteers. Captain David J. Murphy took charge immediately, ordering fingerprints from the boy's tiny hands and circulating them through national databases. No hits. An autopsy at the city morgue, conducted by Dr. A.H.A. Fisher, painted a devastating picture. The cause was blunt force trauma to the head and body, compounded by severe malnutrition that left Joseph's organs atrophied and his frame emaciated. There were no defensive wounds, suggesting the harm came from someone he knew, perhaps in a moment of unchecked frustration. Bruises layered his torso and limbs, old and new, pointing to a pattern of neglect rather than a single outburst. To generate leads, police released a post-mortem photo of Joseph posed in a rented suit, sitting upright in a chair with his eyes closed, an eerie image that ran in newspapers from coast to coast. The Philadelphia Inquirer printed 400,000 flyers with an artist's sketch of his face, stuffing them into every utility bill envelope across the city and mailing them to pediatricians nationwide. Over 270 recruits from the police academy fanned out across the woods, combing every inch for evidence, while detectives canvassed orphanages, hospitals, and adoption agencies. Tips flooded in. One woman swore he'd been a refugee smuggled from Hungary amid the communist upheavals. Another claimed he'd wandered off from a circus passing through town. In 1960, Remington Bristow, a detective with the medical examiner's office, teamed up with a New Jersey psychic who sensed the boy came from a foster home just a mile and a half away on Kensington Avenue. Bristow's gut led him to an estate sale there, where he spotted an identical J.C. Penney bassinet box and matching plaid blankets. He theorized the child was the illegitimate son of the foster mother's stepdaughter, hidden away in silence to protect family honor. Police raided the home, quizzing the family under bright lights, but every child was accounted for, alibis ironclad. The lead fizzled, though Bristow never let it go, visiting Joseph's pauper's grave weekly for 40 years, leaving half-smoked cigars as a gesture of solidarity. Fast forward to the 1990s. The case joined the FBI's VICAP database, and in 1998, exhumation yielded DNA from a tooth entered into early genetic banks. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children stepped in 2016 with a 3D facial reconstruction, beaming it across TV screens and NamUs.org. Hundreds more tips rolled in. A Memphis woman thought he resembled her lost nephew. A Florida family swore he was there. Abducted kin, but CODIS matches came up empty. Then in 2002, a woman known only as M came forward with a chilling account. Her mother, she said, had bought a boy named Jonathan from a black market dealer in 1954. Kept him chained in the basement, and in a fit of rage over a spilled meal, inflicted the fatal injuries before dumping the body. M even drew maps to the supposed site, but psychiatric evaluations revealed her history of delusions, and neighbors debunked the tale. No basement tenant, no cries in the night. Undeterred, the Vidoc Society, a cadre of elite investigators, profiled the case in 2013, narrowing suspects to transient families or institutional caretakers. By 2019, with forensic tech advancing, Philadelphia PD exhumed the remains once more, this time scraping bone for high-quality DNA. They uploaded it to GEDmatch, a public genealogy site, and waited. The revelation hit like a thunderclap on December 8, 2022, shattering 65 years of anonymity. At a packed press conference in City Hall, Captain Jason Smith of the Homicide Unit stepped to the podium, his voice steady but laced with emotion. After an exhaustive investigation involving genetic genealogy and DNA analysis, we are able to name the boy in the box as Joseph Augustus Zer. The breakthrough, that 2019 DNA sample matched distant relatives on Ancestry, cousins who'd swabbed their cheeks for family trees. From there, detectives traced upward through vital records, landing on Joseph's birth certificate from Philadelphia General Hospital. A court order unlocked adoption files, confirming he'd been placed in temporary care shortly after birth, though details on his whereabouts from age to onward remain murky, possibly shuttled between relatives or informal guardians. Amid his parents' marital strains, the Zarely family, scattered across the Delaware Valley, had long mourned a missing youngest son, their grief compounded by faded memories and unspoken regrets. Thomas, Joseph's father, had passed in 1999. Catherine, his mother, in 2015, both spared the public glare but denied closure in life. 4 of Joseph's siblings, now in their 60s and 70s, came forward cautiously, sharing snippets of a boisterous home life disrupted by financial woes and a brief separation of the parents in 1955. One sister recalled a quiet little brother who vanished without explanation, chalked up to a quiet adoption gone wrong. The identification didn't solve the who or why, but it etched Joseph's name into history, replacing America's unknown child on his Ivy Hill Cemetery headstone, with a proper marker unveiled on his would-be 70th birthday in January 2023, complete with an etched portrait smiling eternally. As for justice, the road remains winding, with no arrests and the trail cooling under time's relentless march. Philadelphia PD classifies it active, buoyed by the ID's ripple effect. Tips surged post-announcement, from elderly neighbors recalling a foster kid next door to genealogical threads tying loose ends. Investigators now eye Joseph's extended family circle from the 1950s. Those mid-century figures who might have crossed paths in Philly's foster system or black market adoptions. Captain Smith urged the public, if you in your 70s or 80s and remember a child like this, come forward. No one has been charged, and with key witnesses long gone, full closure feels elusive. Yet in naming him, they've honored Joseph's dignity, transforming a faceless statistic into a boy with a story, buried not in oblivion, but under a stone that reads his full name, dates, and a poignant epitaph. Let brotherly love continue. The Zarely siblings, speaking through PD channels, expressed a mix of relief and sorrow. We always wondered, one said while vowing to support whatever truths emerge. It's a partial healing, a chapter closed on the unknown but open on accountability, reminding us that even cold cases can thaw with persistence. What lingering questions does this case leave you with? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Here are 3 to get the discussion rolling. First, do you believe the harm came from someone close to Joseph, like a caregiver, or was it a stranger's act? Second, how might modern DNA tech crack the remaining puzzle? Who do you suspect might hold the key? And third, if you could ask one of Joseph's siblings a question, what would it be? Your insights keep these stories alive and help us build a community around seeking truth. If this deep dive into The Boy in the Box gripped you, smash that like button, share it with a fellow true crime fan, and subscribe to Crime Justice for more unbiased breakdowns of iconic cases. Next up, we're tackling another Philly legend. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and remember, justice delayed isn't always denied. See you in the next one.